Hey guys, I hope you all are doing swell and welcome to another episode of the Doing Swell podcast. I'm coming to you guys live from my car today, and I have an iced latte that I got from Dunkin' Donuts. It has almond milk and caramel in it as well. I usually don't get coffee while I'm out, but since I am recording the Q&A in my car today, I thought that I would just stop and get a coffee. And today's episode is going to be super casual because it is a Q&A, and I'm going to be covering some questions that I've gotten on some of my videos over the past year or so dealing with study abroad and how I went and studied abroad. And since the month of August on the podcast, we're going to be covering back to college episodes and topics, I thought that it was only suiting that today we talk about study abroad. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. I am not that good with the lighting. I'm still trying to figure out this camera. Ooh, that's good. So just to give a little bit of context, a few days ago actually, I graduated a year ago with my BA in International Studies, International Business and Sociology. And while I was in college in 2016 in the fall, I actually studied abroad in Prague, Czech Republic. And while I was there, I had a dual internship with the Czech NGO. So I went to a very small university. I went to Anglo-American University, and it was a private college. And then while I was there, I took international business courses, and then a few times a week I would meet in my internship. And my internship was with the Czech NGO, and I was a fundraising intern, and that's about it. Just to give a little context to all of that, over the course of the year I've had about 18 questions, and I thought that I would just sit down and kind of answer them today for anyone who is inquiring about study abroad, or if there's something that you might want to do in the future while you're in undergraduate, or even doing like a gap year between undergraduate and actually get into your career, because there's a lot of study abroad programs that do that as well. So let's just get started. The first one is, why did I choose to study abroad in Prague, Czech Republic? Now honestly, I chose to study abroad in Prague, Czech Republic because not a lot of people from my university actually went to Prague. I think at the time when I actually studied, there were 2 people ahead of me that actually went and took a study abroad semester in Prague, but I was the only person from Memphis, the only person from the University of Memphis, which is the college I graduated from. So I thought that it would just be an awesome opportunity for me to completely step outside of my comfort zone, learn a lot about myself, as well as not being like a clique with other people from school, because I feel like a lot of programs, people usually go to like Barcelona, Paris, London, like those places. So I decided to just do the total opposite and go somewhere where no one was. And then also an awesome thing that really grabbed my attention was the dual internship, because since I was an international studies major, it was required that we have an internship or study abroad, and then I knocked 2 birds out with 1 stone. I studied abroad and I interned, and then while I was abroad, I actually declared international business as my minor. So I took a lot of those courses within my minor. And so the second question is, what university did I go to and what did I like the most about it? So like I said, I went to a very small private school, private university in Prague. It was Anglo-American University, and I think 2/3 of the population on campus was actually study abroad students. So whether they're study abroad from the United States or from different countries, a lot of the people that were there were from study abroad in different countries, which I really liked about it. One of the things I really enjoyed is the European education system. Like in the United States, at least in Memphis and like University of Memphis, you go to classes like 1 hour a few times a week, and a lot of that time you don't get to actually, either you sit and lecture or you're doing study stuff. But what I really appreciated about study abroad in Europe and in Prague in general is the fact that I would go to class maybe 2 or 3 hours on one day, once a week. But during that time, we actually didn't have textbooks. We learned valuable information about things that were going on in the world around us. So you're taking that information that's implemented within class and actually using it day to day, and I really appreciated that because I'm a person who likes lectures, and that's a way that I actually retain and learn information, and also going on like excursions. And so a lot of the classes over there took what we learned in class and actually went and did excursions and actually seeing like field research and all of that. So I hope that made sense. But I just really like the way that the school was structured and the way that the curriculum was structured as well. And it was a very small university. Everyone was super kind and nice, and I just really enjoyed it a lot. So the third question is, how was it being black while in Prague, and were the people nice and friendly? And I honestly think that's why I make YouTube channels, because I think it's such an important thing for young black women to show how with hard work, anything can be achievable as long as you have faith, you have grit, and you have determination, and you're not going to let those outside influences and voices influence the way that you carry yourself and the way that you dominate your goals. So while I was in Prague, actually I never experienced any type of racism, maybe because I know how to combat that since living in the South, but everyone minded their business. The Czech culture is very standoffish at first, but once you get to know people, they're really friendly. So people were just really nice and friendly, and I don't know if this is just like a minority or a POC type of thing, but when you're in a place where there's not a lot of people or minorities, when you see someone out, you just instantly have that connection. So while there were a few black people that I think went to the public university, in my program in general, like coming from CEA in America, there was me, I'm fully black, and then there was two other girls who were actually mixed race. So that wasn't like a huge thing. We had really good conversation, but I think it's just so important to show young black people and young black women that you can travel abroad and you can intern abroad and you can be a positive role model for everyone else. So I didn't have any trouble when I was studying abroad in Prague. It was just a really good experience, and being black, that wasn't something that deterred me from doing things. People enjoyed learning about my culture, especially people that were actually American. It was a fun way for us to learn about each other's cultures and religions, but being black never stood out. People minded their business, smiled, they're really polite, and I never had an issue with being black while in Prague. And so the fourth question that I got was, what classes did you take? So I actually wrote down a list because that was in 2016 when I studied abroad. I took entrepreneurship, I took internship research class. So with that, I would meet in an actual class each week and we would have different research topics. And then that was kind of like a sister to our actually internships that we had wherever place we went, because I was in the internship program that was in the study abroad program. So I was in two programs kind of in one. And then I had a public speaking class, Nations and Nationalism, Prague Art and Architecture. So they were like gen eds that I knew I wanted to save, because when I got into college, my mom just pushed me to study abroad because she didn't have the opportunity to do that. And she thought that it was very important for me to go over there and, gain experiences. And, it was just really important. So I knew that when I studied abroad, I wanted to take gen ed so I can actually engulf myself in the culture and actually pace out stuff and not be boggled with like homesickness and like a heavy workload. And so the fifth question that I got was, what program did I go with? And I actually went with CEA, which is a study abroad program here in the United States. And I was actually a CEA Senior Alumni Ambassador for the University of Memphis. But it's just an awesome program. I would highly check, if you are considering study abroad, to go to your study abroad office on campus or just request information online, because I had such an amazing time. The CEA Prague team was phenomenal. They were so heartwarming, and they would have different things at the office each week. So since I went in the fall, we celebrate all the holidays there. They took us out for like Czech holidays as well, like a big group lunch, because I think it was about 200 and something of us in my study abroad program. So all of us would like hang out and have dinner and brunch together. Then they have like coffee time and study time and dessert time, and it was just a lot of fun. So I really highly recommend that program. And they also give out amazing scholarships. It doesn't depend on where you go, but they have amazing programs as well as scholarships, so I highly recommend you checking that out. I'll also leave some information in the description box down below from when I was a senior alumni ambassador, in case that helps out with you if you're considering study abroad. So the sixth question that I got was, how did I pay for study abroad? So like I said, CEA had wonderful scholarships, and a pro tip about my university, and I think they have like a system going on with CEA, but you pay what you would pay if you lived on campus. So whatever the tuition was at my university, if you stayed in like one of the dorms, that's the same cost it would be to study abroad. And that's a really good thing, because if you have scholarships, or you have like different grants or different financial aid, they tuition match it. So it wasn't that expensive. It was the same amount of money that was covered with my scholarships that I already had on campus. I think out of pocket we maybe paid $3,000, and that was for like flights and just registration and all of that stuff. So it wasn't that expensive. It's very doable. I just encourage you guys to research different programs that might fit best for you, and to also check your study abroad office on campus, because they do have a lot of internships, especially for minorities and people of color. Check that out, because there's a ton of internships out there for us, and there's a ton of scholarship and financial aid resources as well for us. But I had scholarships, travel vouchers, financial aid, and tuition match. So the seventh question that I got was money saving tips and how to change currency while abroad. And some money saving tips that I did before I studied abroad, I was modeling, so I would take those checks and put them in my savings account. So I was lucky in that sense. But also I had a job, and I worked maybe 30 hours a week during the summer, and I would pay off my car note and those little bills that I had, but the rest of the money I would just put in my savings account. So I was saving for about a year so that I can have money so I can go on different trips, and so I wouldn't have to fluster while I was there, because this was an opportunity for me to be independent. I still had the help of my family, my mother, but this was a way for me to be independent and learn how to manage my money a lot wiser, because I didn't know how to. So this was an awesome opportunity for me to do that. And one thing that I would recommend is that going to your bank, whoever you bank with, actually going to them and requesting money. So I did that. I requested like $200, which wasn't enough, but also take out additional like American currency. So if you're studying abroad for a semester, I would take out maybe like $500 to $1,000 worth of money, just like cash, because a lot of places in Prague, actually, they didn't have a currency rate because the currency is so drastic. So I didn't pay a currency rate in a lot of places. So they had like the big Tesco over there. They had like, I'll put like the information on the screen about like the currency rate in different places that I went, but I didn't get charged. The only time I did get charged is when I used my debit card while I was abroad, because you have that banking fee. So a pro tip that I would suggest is to just take out money ahead of time, as well as request some money from your bank and get that currency before you go and study abroad. And so the next question that I got was, how is the process of finding the right internship abroad? So luckily, I had a really good relationship with the study abroad program on campus. I volunteered a lot, and I was like an active leadership role on campus. So finding an internship wasn't that hard to begin with. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little daunting just kind of starting up that whole initial inquiring about different information. But once I got the ball rolling, it wasn't that bad. So I just went to a regular meeting. I just set one up, and they kind of talked about my major and what I was thinking about doing. So they listed off like London, different like ones in America, but I was like, no, I want to go to some place I've never been to. So she showed me the program when in Prague, and then it was like an internship, and I had a bunch of like interviews for that, a bunch of writing samples that I had to do for that, a bunch of resumes and cover letters that I had to send to the study abroad program, the internship that I was applying to in Prague, as well as my university. So it was a very competitive program, but it was such an amazing program in general, and I truly loved it so much. So finding the right internship wasn't that bad. It's just kind of assessing what you want to learn and what you want to study and what you want to do while you're abroad, and seeing if you can find a program that best matches with that, which is also within your budget. And so the next question that I have is, was it hard adjusting to a different language and a different culture? It was exciting. It wasn't hard because I studied a few of like their basic phrases in the summer before I was leaving, so I knew like Jin Dobry, Dobry Din, all that like basic phrases, because I feel like it's so ignorant, and I feel like a lot of us as Americans, we have like this type of ignorance when we go and travel to different places. We just expect everyone to know English, and going to a very rural and Eastern European place, a lot of people do not speak English. If they do, they are younger, but a lot of the older people who own businesses and stuff like that, they do not speak English, or they speak very minimum. So I wanted to know like the basic phrases. But going into it, since my program was so big and I lived with other American students from my program, it wasn't as daunting. And my university as well, even though it was a melting pot, everyone did speak English, so it wasn't that bad. So I wasn't that nervous or scared. The only time I was like a little fearful was when I actually went to different countries and traveled, and not knowing a lick of their language except for like hello, goodbye, where's the bathroom, where's the train, do you guys have Wi-Fi, do you have water, stuff like that. But it wasn't really scary for me because I'm the type of person, I love traveling so much, and when I travel, I just click and I'm just in my girl boss mode. I'm just feeling unstoppable. So I wasn't afraid. I've always been super independent, so it wasn't daunting for me. It was just really, really exciting. And I just enjoyed learning about the Czech culture in general. I love learning about their different holidays, how they celebrated Christmas and Halloween and all that different stuff, and also just their national holidays. It was just so heartwarming to like actually be in their culture and just learn, and then be able to share it with other people. And you know, it just broadens your horizons in general. And the next question that I got was, how did you determine what to pack? Oh gosh. So I overpack, but I'm the type of person who overpacks in general. I am such a big overpacker. I pack a lot of what if outfits, and I never wear those what if outfits. So going to Prague, I brought 2 checked-in luggages and a backpack with like my laptop. And a majority of the clothes I did not wear because I also bought a lot of clothes. But a fun thing about my program, at the end, you got to donate a lot of stuff to like their women's shelter. So the stuff that I did buy and didn't wear, I just donated it. But I just kind of researched online what the weather was like in the fall time, because you guys, a lot of European countries, they do not have AC, especially in the summertime. So your form of like cooling is actually just a fan. So I wasn't prepared for that in a sense. So I brought a lot of jeans and like cute tops. But in the winter months, I did come prepared. I didn't bring a coat. I actually bought a coat while I was there because I knew I wouldn't have room, and I knew when I came back, I would need to wear a coat on the plane because it would be cold in Memphis in December. But I just advise you to research, watch other people's videos on YouTube if they study abroad in the same semester, in the same location in which you are going, and just kind of seeing what they wear day to day within their vlogs. I also utilize Pinterest as well as a bunch of just random searches online. And luckily my program as well, they sent out a what to pack list. So our program program in CEA Prague gave us like the typical weather between each month, whether that be rainy, windy, cold, or humid. They kind of broke that down each month, so from August to December. So I kind of got a gist of what I needed to bring, but I did overpack as well. So the next question I got was, what was the nightlife in Prague? And you guys, the nightlife was a 10 out of 10. In Memphis, I do not go out. It's crazy in the United States. People are shooting, people are reckless, people are careless. So I do not go out. I hang out with friends in very intimate settings. Some people are coming out. So while I'm in Memphis, I hang out in very intimate settings. But when I was in Prague, I was just learning more about myself and my likes, my dislikes, and my personality in general, because it was a time that I was fully distanced from everyone, and I was just thrown into a situation where I had to adapt and to learn, and it was such a beautiful transition. But getting back to nightlife, it was insane, and it was a good insane. It was never like daunting or scary because crime isn't as prominent over there. And when I think about it right now, I used to travel by myself when I was over there. I used to walk down the street, walk to the grocery store at night, in the morning. I used to do a lot of things by myself. I enjoyed my alone time because that's where I recharge. But nightlife was so insane and it was so much fun. If I can find some videos, I'll try to insert it right here. But you guys, a lot of people in my program, those became some of my very great friends, and they were friends with other people in the program. And then I also made friends with people at my university. So we would go out on Thursdays, on Saturdays when we're not traveling, and then on Sundays as well, after we did like our Bible study and all that stuff, you know, in the evening. But it was a lot of fun. People are so nice and friendly, and they mind their own business, and they just party and dance, and they don't care what people think. There's this club in particular that I'm thinking about right now called Lucerna, and it's in Prague 4 because I stayed in Prague 5. It's in Prague 4 or in Prague 2, but it's very close to the city center kinda. And it was the best club ever. They have like a Thursday electronic night, and they would play like all these old, like early 2000s, late 1999 type of videos on a big screen, and the crowd was so diverse. You had people in high school, you had people in college, you had grandparents, you had parents. It was just a really fun and just a carefree time. People are very cautious and aware of their surroundings as well, which is what I really appreciate. But the nightlife is so respectful, but it's also a lot of fun. So if you go to Prague, I suggest going to the nightlife. You might end up liking it. I ended up being a girl who really enjoyed going out, but now I'm like a grandma. I don't go out while I'm in Memphis, but when I go like out, when I travel out of the country, your girl goes out and I know how to have fun. I dance, and I'm just a whole new and different person. I'm a night owl. I'm a night gal. And there's another place that I want to talk about. I don't know the name of it, but it's in Prague 5, but it's this bar. So a lot of bars in Prague as well, that you see how much I'm lighting up, but there's a lot of bars in Prague as well that kind of have a club atmosphere. So there's a bar in general, which I'll have the name if I can find it on the screen. But you guys, it's like a casual older crowd at the top, and then you go down these winding stairs, and on each level it's like going into this tunnel. So on each level of the tunnel they have different things. So on like one level they'll have all arcade games. On another level they'll have like drinks and a smoke place, because a lot of people in Europe smoke cigarettes all the time, which is disgusting, but that's what they do. That's a part of their culture. So whatever, it's not good for you, so don't do that. And then they have like another thing that's like a restaurant, and then the final one they have like a casual like club. So there's a lot of fun places to go in Europe, but I always advise, if you go out, be careful and always have the emergency numbers on you. Always be aware of your surroundings, be confident, and just be aware, because there's crazy people everywhere. I say that there's a lot of crazy people in the United States, but there's crazy people everywhere. So always be aware of your surroundings, but also have fun and not let fear stop you from having fun. Okay, so the next question that I got was, did I do any travel? So I did travel a lot, which can be a whole video in itself, but I wrote down the places that I actually went to. I went to Dresden, Germany. I went to Czech Republic. I went to Punta Hora. I went to Amsterdam. I went to Vienna. Some other places in Austria. I went to Krakow. I went to Weinstein. I went to Giswood. I went to Warsaw. I went to Auschwitz, and I went to Budapest. So I went to a lot of places. Initially going to study abroad, I didn't even put two and two together that I could travel to other places until that first trip when our program all went to Czech Republic. It's like 100 people in our thing. I think I said 200 earlier. It was about 100 people in my program. But I didn't realize that we can travel. I was just so excited to be in Prague. But once I realized and my roommates and me started planning trips, you guys, the travel is so cheap over there. So I went and did like a day trip to go to one of the Christmas markets in Dresden for a $5 bus ride. And then we also flew on like EasyJet and a bunch of other like commercial airlines. But we just took advantage of how cheap it was to travel to different countries. I think my most expensive trip was actually to Amsterdam, and that was like $125 flight. But I think the only reason why it was so expensive was because Flume was performing the time that we were going there. So a lot of people in study abroad programs, like a lot of Americans, all flew into Amsterdam in the same time. So flights were more expensive, Airbnbs were a little more expensive. But with the flight, travel, and lodging, everything was like $125, and that was my most expensive trip while I was there. So it's a very affordable place if you go in like a Central or Eastern European place. It's very affordable. I highly recommend before you going, kind of reach out to your other roommates if you know them and kind of start planning like roughly some trips to go to, because it's always better to plan ahead of time because you can find some really good deals, and also you get to just enjoy all of the cultures around you, because it's such a great way to not only learn about your host country but also learn about its sister and neighboring countries as well. And another question that I got, which is question 13, is how I was living with roommates. So I am the only child, and it's always been me and my mom. We've always lived together. So technically she's my mother first, my best friend second, and she's also my roommate. So we get along really well. We have similar personalities, but I was never used to living with roommates. I take that back. My freshman and sophomore year of college, I actually stayed on campus. My first roommate was a hot mess. Did not enjoy it. My second roommate was a sweetheart, and I really enjoyed that. So I was used to living in like a bad roommate versus a really good roommate. So I was accustomed to that, but never to the capacity that I was in Prague with. So I got to Prague very, very early because I'm the type of person, I like to be ahead of time so I can, you know, kind of scope everything out, but also so I can pick the best room. And that's what I did. I kind of show you guys what my room looked like. But I had such a beautiful balcony, and I was close to the kitchen, close to the bathroom, all that different stuff. So my apartment was set up with 6 women. So we were all part of the program. I was from Memphis. 4 of my other roommates were from California, and then the other one was from Delaware. So we were all from different places, kind of, because even the girls from California, they went to different universities. They didn't know each other. Sorry, my memory card cut off. But they were all from different places, so it was fun to kind of learn about their hometowns, what they grew up, how they grew up. Everyone came from different religious backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, and also had different personalities, but we all meshed really well together. So when you walked in, to the left was Talia and Katie's room, and they had a really pretty room. And then when you come from the first door, so that's their room, and then you had a washroom with just the bathroom, and then you had another washroom right here with just the bathroom as well, so just toilets. And one of them actually had a washing machine. And then you go down a little bit, and it was Sarah and Claire's room. Claire is my sweet baby angel. I love her so much. She's such a good friend. So she lives like next door to me in the same room. So we shared like a closet, and we hung out so much and traveled to a bunch of places as well. But after you get out of that room, right in front of it was the bathroom with like the shower and like just a sink. And then you come out, you had the living room and the dining room, and then me and Taylor's room was in there. So me, Taylor, Sarah, and Claire all shared a huge closet, and Talia and Katie shared a closet. And I just enjoyed having just a really solid girl group, because after our long days we would go and get gelato at Gelato, which was right across the street from us, and we would go shopping, grocery shopping, we would go traveling together, and then we'll also just have dinner and like meals together. So even though we all had hectic schedules, we would still like sit down and have like a family meal together a few times a week and just talk about girl stuff and go out together and watch movies together. So it was a really good and cherishable moment. I just really enjoyed it a lot, and it wasn't that bad. Sometimes we kind of butted heads because people weren't as clean as the other one, but that was probably the only con, because my standard of cleanliness is not the same as someone else's. But that's the only con. Living with roommates is people not keeping their area tidy. But other than that, everyone got along for the most part. Okay, so the next question is, how did I deal with homesickness? So luckily for me, I traveled a lot with modeling before I did study abroad. So I actually lived in Miami, South Beach, for about 3 or 4 months. So I was kind of used to homesickness. But I just grew up traveling. Me and my mom traveled a lot together. I guess that kind of prepared me for the homesickness. And she's also taught me a lot of maturity and independence. So going to Prague didn't affect me as much as I feel like it affected her, because we're just best friends. She's my mom first, of course, but she's my best friend as well. So like being apart for that long was a little hard, but she was so excited for me traveling and meeting new people and doing well in school and my internship that kind of weighed out like being homesick. But towards the end, I did get really homesick, because towards the end of the program, you're tired from traveling all the time. You're done with your exams, and everything is kind of winding down in the city as well as the program. So you're just like, oh, I'm ready to go home finally. But a way that I would suggest combating with homesickness would be to start journaling. While I was in Prague, they advised us to journal from our initial moments to the conclusion of the program and just see how much you do grow. And I feel like journaling and just putting your thoughts on paper, because you can talk to a lot of people about a lot of stuff, but those things and those experiences and those emotions that you can't really convey to other people, it's good to document those and write them down in your journal. So that's what I did to kind of help with homesickness. As well, I talk to my mom every day on the phone. I highly recommend downloading WhatsApp. I didn't do that, but I should have. So when I went to study, when I traveled abroad afterwards, I did download WhatsApp. Do that beforehand, because it's a great way for you to text your friends and family back home without being charged. You just have like the Wi-Fi. But luckily, since I have an iPhone, I have my phone on airplane mode. So when I had Wi-Fi at school, at the CEA headquarters, and my internship, while I was out and about, at home, I just turned on the Wi-Fi and I was still able to text and stay in communication with my family. The only downside is that when you're out and about, you will not have that. In some areas, in a lot of like bigger European cities, like in Prague, they did have areas where you can be in public and they have Wi-Fi. But I recommend downloading WhatsApp so you can stay in contact. That's a way that I kind of deterred myself away from homesickness. I just talked to my mom all the time. I FaceTimed friends. I kind of kept everyone updated. I started making YouTube videos just a little bit. You can go and check those out if you want to. They're a little cringy, but I did document my time while I was there, because so my family back home can see it. But that's just a way, journaling, talking to your friends and your roommates, because they're probably going through the same thing as well. And so the next question that I got was, how was grocery shopping and was it daunting? The only daunting part is trying to figure out what things say. So I recommend downloading Google Translate as well, because even if you are out and you don't have Wi-Fi, even though a lot of grocery stores do have Wi-Fi in Prague, you just take a picture of a label and it'll kind of decode it for you and translate it, as well as just downloading your host country's language, because once you download it, you can use it in public and you don't need Wi-Fi for it. So that was the only daunting part, and trying to figure out the currency, because if I can remember, every dollar is 25 cents in Prague, so it was very cheap, which made me go to the grocery store a lot more frequently. But I loved how fresh their produce was. They don't use pesticides. Things actually spoil, because I feel like some of the stuff I buy at the grocery store, it takes it forever to spoil, so you know that they're spraying it with stuff. You know it's genetically modified. But everything was so fresh, everything, all the pastries, all the sweets, all the fun, like Mexican food. Oh, while I was there, I was vegan, so I still eat fish, but I ate vegan. Grocery shopping is my favorite thing to do while I'm in Memphis, but it's also one of my favorite things I love doing when I was in Prague, because it's just so fun trying out different cultures and all their fun stuff that they eat. And I just really enjoyed it. It's an exciting thing. And yeah, the only daunting part is figuring out what things are, how to cook them, because the directions are in a different language, and also the currency. But you learn that and you adapt to it as you are there for longer. Okay, so the next question is, any tips on people considering study abroad? I think I kind of covered that in the rest of the questions that I have answered, but basically just do your research, make sure the program is a right fit for you, do research about your host country, learn some basic phrases, get your currency ahead of time, find a phone plan if that's something for you, but also download WhatsApp, Google Translate, so you can stay in contact with your family members back home, be safe, and have a lot of fun. Those are my tips, I guess. And so the next question is, do you ever think you'll go back, and what do you miss the most about Prague? So I think I will go back. We're planning, roughly planning a Europe trip next year, actually next summer, so I do think that I'll actually go back to Prague. And what I miss the most about it is just walking everywhere. I enjoy walking a lot. You don't need a gym membership, even though I had one while I was there, but you just stay active. There's so many beautiful parks and gardens to see, and monuments and museums. I just loved taking one of my off days and going to a museum in Prague and just walking around, treating myself to lunch and coffee, and just kind of basking in the entire experience. So I do think that I will go back very, very soon. There's people everywhere, but I know that they'll love it a lot and enjoy it a lot, because they hear me talk about it all the time. But I have been back to Europe. I've been to Poland, and I went to Taiwan, which is in Europe, but it's an Asian country. I went to Taiwan. So I have been traveling, but I'm excited to just stay in Europe for a little while and kind of do a little bit of domestic traveling while I'm there. And the last question, you guys, what is the most valuable thing that I learned? The most valuable thing that I learned while studying abroad is actually learning more about myself. Not saying that I didn't know who I was before I studied abroad, but I feel like when you're surrounded by people, whether they be positive or negative, they do have an influence on you. So while I was in Prague, I didn't know anyone, and that was a very beneficial thing for me, because it forced me to assimilate, it forced me to be who I am, authentically, and it forced me to learn about my likes and my dislikes and what I wanted to pursue as a career. That's one of the big things that I recommend with study abroad, is just fully putting yourself in that whole atmosphere, because you truly learn about who you are, what you want to achieve in life, and you just learn about you and being unstoppable. Because from coming back from abroad, and that was 3 years ago, I have been my most authentic self. I am 100% myself majority of the time. I know what I will tolerate, I know what I will not tolerate, and I know also what I want to accomplish in life, and I know how to assimilate to situations a lot better and be more adaptable. And I think that's an important life lesson to learn with anything, especially as you're maturing and getting into those career fields. It's so important, and it's such a great life skill to learn how to be adaptable, have your head on your shoulders, be mature, and also know how to communicate yourself a lot better. yeah, so that is what I learned while I was in Prague. So that is it for this study abroad Q&A episode on the Doing Swell podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it and it made you excited for traveling as well as study abroad if that's something that you're considering in the future. I'll try to have as much resources as I can in the description box down below, but I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you do all that fun stuff like give it a big old like, subscribe below if you haven't already, as well as share with someone who is going to study abroad soon, considering it, or someone who just wants to travel. I hope these are adaptable for any of those different areas. But until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this chill atmosphere of the podcast, and I will check you guys out in one of my other weekly videos. Bye, you guys.